Taehyun tried to open his eyes, but his eyelids felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. Everything hurt. His chest burned with each breath. His arms felt distant and wrong. Even his thoughts moved slowly like thick mud. Where was he? The last thing he remembered was fire. His fighter cockpit had been filled with red warning lights and screaming alarms. The Vexari battleship loomed in front of him like a metal mountain. His ship was dying. Life support was gone. Hull breached in 3 sections. No escape pods left. He had made a choice then. A simple choice. If he was going to die anyway, he would take something important with him. Taehyun had pushed his failing engines to maximum and aimed straight for the enemy flagship's shield generator. The massive crystalline structure stuck out from the ship's hull like a glowing tumor. If he could destroy it, the station's defense guns might have a chance. The civilians might escape. He remembered the impact. The bright flash. Then nothing. But somehow, impossibly, he was still alive. Taehyun forced his eyes open. The light was soft and blue, not harsh like human medical facilities. The ceiling above him was curved and made of some smooth material he did not recognize. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the walls. This was not a human ship. This was not Kepler Station. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his entire body like lightning. He gasped and fell back against the bed. Please do not move. The voice was soft and gentle. The words were in standard Terran, but the accent was strange. Musical almost. Each syllable had an odd rhythm to it. Taehyun turned his head slowly. The movement made the room spin. Beside his bed sat a small alien creature. She was perhaps 4 feet tall with smooth violet skin that seemed to shimmer in the blue light. 4 large eyes dominated her face, arranged in a square pattern, 2 where human eyes would be, and 2 more above them on her forehead. All 4 eyes were watching him with an intensity that was both curious and caring. She wore simple robes in pale green. Her hands, he noticed, had only 3 fingers each, but they moved with quick precision. Right now, those hands were hovering over some kind of medical device that floated beside his bed. "You are awake," she said. Her face did something that might have been a smile. It was hard to tell with alien features. "I am happy. Very happy. I thought you might not wake up." Taehyun tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Only a rough sound came out. The alien moved quickly. She pressed something on the floating device and a thin tube extended toward his mouth. "Water," she said. "Drink slowly." The water tasted strange but good. After a few sips, his throat felt better. "Where am I?" he managed to ask. His voice sounded weak and rough. "You are on the salvage ship Wandering Tide," she explained. She spoke slowly and carefully, like she wanted to make sure he understood every word. "We found your ship drifting near the battle site. Most of it was destroyed. You should have been dead." "How long?" 3 weeks. "You were unconscious for 3 weeks. Your injuries were very severe." She gestured to his chest. "Broken ribs. Punctured lung. Internal bleeding. Burns. Your suit kept you alive for maybe 10 minutes after the crash. Then your biology did the rest." Taehyun looked down at himself. His chest was wrapped in some kind of flexible bandage that glowed faintly. He could see more bandages on his arms. Everything felt stiff and sore. "The others?" he asked. "Kepler Station? The evacuation ships?" The alien's 4 eyes dimmed slightly. "I do not know much. We are a neutral salvage vessel. We do not involve ourselves in wars. But I heard the station fell. Some escape ships made it out before the end. Your sacrifice bought them time." The words hit him hard. The station had fallen. Good people had died. But some had lived. That had to be enough. "What is your name?" he asked the alien. "I am Leora," she said. "I am a healer on this ship. When we found you, the captain wanted to leave you. He said humans were too much trouble. But I convinced him to let me try to save you. Why?" Taehyun studied her strange face. "Why save an enemy soldier?" Leora's eyes brightened again. "You are not my enemy. I have no enemies. I am a healer, and you were hurt. That is all that mattered to me." She adjusted something on the medical device. A cool sensation spread through Taehyun's chest and the pain lessened. "Also," Leora continued quietly, "I wanted to meet a human. Stories about your people have reached even us. They say humans are crazy, that you fight battles you cannot win, that you never surrender even when you should, that you would rather die than live as slaves. Is that why you saved me?" Taehyun asked. "Curiosity? At first maybe yes," Leora admitted. "But then I saw how your body fought to survive. Even unconscious, even with terrible wounds, your body refused to give up. I have healed many species. I have never seen such determination to live. It was fascinating. Beautiful, even. She paused, and her 4 eyes looked directly into his 2. The Vexari are destroyers. They have conquered half the galaxy. My people, the Quillari, surrendered to them 70 years ago. We had no choice. They were too strong. Everyone knows the Vexari cannot be beaten. It is simply how the universe works. But you, she continued, you flew your tiny ship straight into their biggest vessel. You damaged their shield generator so badly they had to retreat for repairs. One human in one small ship did what entire fleets could not do. You hurt them. You made them bleed. Taehyun managed a weak smile. I just did what needed to be done. That is what I do not understand, Leora said. She leaned forward with excitement in her voice. Why do humans do what needs to be done even when it means dying? My people see a superior force and we surrender, because survival is logical. Your people see a superior force and attack because giving up is unacceptable. Why? Taehyun thought about the question. It was something he had never really considered before. Why did humans fight impossible battles? Because someone has to, he finally said. Because if everyone just accepts that the strong rule the weak, then nothing ever changes. Someone has to stand up first. Someone has to throw the first punch. Even if that punch does not win the fight, it shows others that fighting is possible. Leora was silent for a long moment. All 4 of her eyes were wide. That is beautiful, she whispered. Terrifying but beautiful. How long until we reach human space? Taehyun asked. He needed to get back. Needed to report. The Vexari would not stop. Earth was in danger. Leora's eyes dimmed again. We are not heading to human space. We are going to a Vexari supply station for trade. We will arrive in 3 days. Cold fear washed over Taehyun. They will kill me. The captain plans to hand you over to them, Leora said quietly. He says keeping you is too dangerous. The Vexari are looking for the human pilot who damaged their flagship. There is a bounty on you. So I survived the crash just to be executed anyway, Taehyun said bitterly. No. Leora's voice was firm. I did not save your life just to hand you over to murderers. I have a plan. It is dangerous and probably foolish, but I have been thinking about what you said, about how someone has to stand up first. She looked at him with all 4 eyes blazing with determination. I think maybe it is time for me to stand up. Will you teach me how to fight impossible battles? Despite everything, despite the pain and the fear and the hopeless situation, Taehyun found himself smiling. It would be my honor. Over the next 2 days, Leora spent every moment she could spare with Taehyun. The captain had assigned her to monitor the human prisoner anyway, so no one questioned her presence. But what started as medical duty had become something else entirely. She was fascinated by him. Every time she checked his healing wounds, she asked questions. Where did humans come from? What was Earth like? How did his people learn to build ships that could travel between stars? Why did humans fight so fiercely? Taehyun answered as best he could. Speaking helped distract him from the pain and from thinking about what would happen in one day when they reached the Vexari station. Earth is beautiful, he told her during one session. We have vast oceans that cover most of the planet. Blue water as far as you can see, and mountains that reach up into the clouds. Forests with trees so old they were there before my great-great-grandparents were born. Leora listened with all 4 eyes focused on him. She had pulled her chair closer to his bed. It sounds wonderful. My homeworld Quellis was beautiful too. Before the Vexari came, what happened? Taehyun asked. Leora's eyes dimmed. They gave us a choice. Surrender and become part of their empire or fight and be destroyed. Our leaders chose surrender. They said it was logical, better to live as subjects than die as free people. Most of my kind agreed. But you do not agree, Taehyun observed. I did not think about it before, Leora admitted. I was born after the surrender. This is all I have ever known. We work for them. We fix their ships. We grow food for their soldiers. In return, they do not kill us. It seemed fair enough. She looked at her 3-fingered hands. But meeting you made me think. Is survival enough? Is breathing and eating and existing enough if you are not free? Taehyun thought about his own sister. I have a younger sister named Jiwon. She is a botanist. Do you know what that is? Leora shook her head. She studies plants. How they grow. How to make them grow in places they normally cannot. Right now she is on Mars trying to make that dead red planet green and alive. It is hard work. It will take decades, maybe centuries. She might never see the finished result. Why does she do it then? Lior asked. Because someone has to start, Taehyun said. Because she wants future generations to have a better world. She could stay on Earth where everything is comfortable, but she chose the hard path because it matters. He shifted in the bed, wincing at the movement. That is what humans do. We choose the hard path when it matters. We do not always survive, but we always try. Liora was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Tell me about the battle. Why did you crash into their ship? You must have known you would die." Taehyun closed his eyes, remembering. There were evacuation ships full of civilians, families, children. The Vexari flagship was moving to destroy them. Our fleet was broken. Most of our ships were already gone. I had one chance to stop them. But it was suicide, Liora said softly. It was necessary, Taehyun corrected. I had a friend named Dae-sung. He was a pilot like me. During an earlier battle, the enemy breached Kepler Station's hull. The section was losing air fast. Dae-sung was nearby. He could have run to the escape pods. Instead, he went to the breach. He used his own body to help seal it. He held it closed while others evacuated. Taehyun's voice grew thick. It took 10 minutes for help to arrive. Dae-sung held that breach for all 10 minutes, even though the escaping air was freezing him. He saved 43 people. By the time they got him out, it was too late. He died 2 hours later in medical. That is horrible, Liora whispered. That is heroic, Taehyun said firmly. Dae-sung knew what he was doing. He made a choice. Those 43 people lived because he chose to sacrifice himself. How can I do less? How can any of us do less when we have the power to save others? Liora's eyes were bright with moisture. Could Quillari cry? Taehyun was not sure, but she seemed deeply moved. Your people are incredible, she said, and terrifying. You treat death like it is just another tool to use. We do not want to die, Taehyun explained. We want to live. We want to see our families and eat good food and watch sunsets. But we also know there are things worth dying for. Freedom is one. Protecting the innocent is another. Some things matter more than our individual lives. The Vexari think the opposite, Liora said. They believe that survival is everything. The strong survive and rule. The weak survive by serving. Nothing matters except power and continued existence. Then they are wrong, Taehyun said simply, and we will prove it. Over the following hours, their conversations continued. Taehyun told her about Earth's history, about how humans had once fought terrible wars against each other, how they had almost destroyed their own planet with weapons and pollution, but how they had learned and changed and united. We are not perfect, he admitted. We make mistakes. We argue and disagree. But we learned one important lesson. We are stronger together than apart, and we have a responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Liora shared stories of Quellis as well, of the beautiful crystal gardens that grew in her planet's polar regions, of the singing festivals where thousands of Quillari would harmonize together under 3 moons, of the ancient traditions that were slowly being forgotten under Vexari rule. I want to see my homeworld free again, she said quietly, but I do not know how. The Vexari are too strong. They are strong, Taehyun agreed, but not unstoppable. I proved that. My one damaged fighter hurt their flagship. Imagine what a coordinated resistance could do. What your people could do if they decided to fight. But how do we start? Liora asked. How do the weak fight the strong? Taehyun smiled. First we survive. You said you have a plan to get me off this ship? Liora nodded. There is an old scout ship in the cargo bay. It was damaged when we salvaged it, but I have been repairing it in secret. It is small and slow, but it works. When we dock at the Vexari station tomorrow, there will be confusion. Many ships arriving and leaving. In that chaos, we can steal the scout ship and escape. We? Taehyun raised an eyebrow. You are coming with me? Of course, Liora said firmly. I cannot stay here. Not anymore. You have shown me that there is another way to live. I want to learn more. I want to see Earth. I want to meet these humans who fight impossible battles and never surrender. She leaned closer. And I want to help free my people. But I cannot do it alone. I need someone to teach me. Someone who knows how to turn weakness into strength. Taehyun looked at this small alien who had saved his life, who had cared for him when she could have let him die, who was now willing to abandon everything she knew to chase a dream of freedom. It will be dangerous, he warned. The Vexari will hunt us. Your own people might see you as a traitor for helping me. We might not survive. I know, Leora said. Her 4 eyes met his 2 with absolute determination. But you taught me something important. Some things are worth the risk. Freedom is one of them. Then we leave tomorrow, Taehyun said. Together, that night Taehyun could not sleep. Pain was part of it, but excitement was another. Tomorrow they would either escape or die trying. There was no middle ground, but he was not alone. Leora had given him something precious. Hope. And in return he had given her something she had never had before. The belief that change was possible. In the darkness of the medical bay, Taehyun made a silent promise. If they survived this, he would help Leora free her people. Humans knew about fighting for freedom. They had done it throughout their history. They could teach the Quillari. They could light a fire that would spread across the galaxy. The Vexari thought they were unstoppable. Tomorrow they would learn differently. Tomorrow the rebellion would begin with 1 human and 1 alien stealing a broken ship and running toward an uncertain future. But it would begin. And that was enough. The wandering tide shuddered as it docked with the Vexari supply station. Taehyun felt the vibration through his bed and knew their time had run out. In a few hours the captain would hand him over to the Vexari authorities. After that, execution was certain. Leora entered the medical bay quickly. She looked nervous but determined. It is time, she said quietly. Can you walk? Taehyun pushed himself up slowly. His body protested with sharp pains, but he gritted his teeth and swung his legs over the side of the bed. I can walk. I can run if I have to. You will have to, Leora said. She handed him a simple gray coverall. Put this on. It is a worker's uniform. If anyone sees us, maybe they will think you are just another laborer. Taehyun changed quickly. The uniform was too small and tight across his shoulders, but it would do. Leora had also brought him boots that almost fit. What about weapons? He asked. Leora shook her head. I could not get any. I am a healer, not a soldier. We will have to be clever instead of strong. Clever works, Taehyun said. He tested his legs. They felt weak but functional. Lead the way. They moved through the ship's corridors carefully. Leora knew the patrol schedules. Most of the crew was busy with docking procedures or had gone to the station for shore leave. They only encountered 2 other Quillari workers who barely glanced at them. The cargo bay was huge and filled with salvaged equipment. Old ship parts, damaged machinery, containers of supplies. Everything smelled like oil and metal. In the far corner, covered with a tarp, was the scout ship Leora had repaired. There, she whispered, pointing. The Blue Wing. That is what I named it. They hurried across the bay. Taehyun kept expecting alarms to sound, but everything remained quiet. Maybe they would actually make it. Then a voice spoke from behind them. I knew you would try this. Taehyun spun around. An old Quillari male stood near the cargo bay entrance. He wore a captain's insignia on his vest. His 4 eyes were tired but not hostile. Captain Vorin, Leora said. Her voice shook. Please, let us go. I should stop you, Vorin said slowly. I should call the guards. The Vexari are paying good money for that human, enough to keep this ship running for a year. Then why have you not called them yet? Taehyun asked. He positioned himself between Leora and the captain. He had no weapons, but he would fight if necessary. Vorin studied them both for a long moment. Because I was young once. Because I remember when the Vexari first came to quell us. I fought them. Did you know that, Leora? Leora shook her head silently. I was a soldier, Vorin continued. I commanded a defense battery in the northern continent. When their ships came, we fired everything we had. We destroyed 3 of their cruisers. We thought we were winning. He laughed bitterly. Then they brought in their dreadnoughts. They burned entire cities from orbit. They said they would keep burning until we surrendered. The old captain's eyes were distant with memory. I gave the order to stand down. I told my soldiers to stop fighting. The enemy offered terms. Surrender and live. Fight and watch your world die. I chose life. I chose survival. And I have regretted it every day since. He walked closer to them. Taehyun tensed, but Vorin simply reached into his vest and pulled out a small data chip. He held it out to Leora. This contains coordinates, Vorin said. Hidden bases. Secret communication channels. Contact codes for Quillari resistance cells that still exist in the shadows. Yes, we still have resistance fighters. Not many. They are scattered and weak, but they are there, waiting. Leora took the chip with shaking hands. Why are you giving this to me? Because I am too old and too afraid to use it myself, Vorin said honestly. But you are young, and this human has shown you something I forgot long ago. That surrender is not the only option. That sometimes survival is not enough. He looked at Taehyun. Take care of her, human. She has a good heart. Better than mine. Better than most of us who gave up. I will protect her with my life, Taehyun promised. I believe you, Vorin said. Now go. The docking clamps will release in 10 minutes for routine station operations. That is your window. After that, they will notice a ship leaving without authorization. Thank you, Leora whispered. Captain, come with us. You do not have to stay here, Vorin smiled sadly. Yes, I do. Someone needs to delay the pursuit. Someone needs to tell the Vexari that you overpowered me and stole the ship. Otherwise, they will hunt down the wandering tide and kill everyone aboard. He turned to leave, then paused. Leora, make an old coward proud. Show the galaxy what Quillari can do when we stop being afraid. Then he was gone. Taehyun and Leora rushed to the scout ship. The hull was patched in several places and the paint was faded, but the engines looked functional. They climbed inside through the small hatch. The interior was cramped. 2 seats in the cockpit, a tiny cargo space behind, and barely room to stand. But it would fly. That was all that mattered. I do not know how to pilot, Leora said nervously as they settled into the seats. I only know how to repair ships, not fly them. That is fine, Taehyun said. His hands moved over the controls. They were alien but similar enough to human designs. I know how to fly. You just need to handle the navigation and communications. He powered up the engines. They coughed and sputtered, but then caught with a steady hum. Outside, the cargo bay's outer door began to open. Through the gap, Taehyun could see the Vexari station. It was massive. A city in space with thousands of ships docked to its various ports. Strap in, he told Leora. This is going to be rough. The docking clamps released right on schedule. Taehyun fired the thrusters and the blue wing shot out of the cargo bay. Immediately, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed across the station. They noticed us, Leora said unnecessarily. Of course they did, Taehyun replied. He pushed the ship into a steep dive, weaving between 2 large cargo haulers. Now comes the fun part. 3 Vexari patrol fighters launched from the station. They were sleek and fast, built for combat. The Blue Wing was a battered scout ship held together with Hope and Leora's repairs. We cannot outfight them, Leora said, watching the fighters close in on her scanner. No, Taehyun agreed, but we can outthink them. Hold on. He flew straight toward the station's superstructure. The patrol fighters followed, firing energy bolts that sizzled past the Blue Wing. One shot clipped their port side and the whole ship shook. Shields at 60%, Leora called out. We cannot take many more hits, Taehyun did not answer. He was focused completely on flying. The station's surface rushed up toward them. Massive towers and docking arms created a forest of metal obstacles. He flew between them like threading a needle. The Vexari fighters followed, but they were bigger and less maneuverable. One clipped a docking tower and exploded in a ball of fire. The other 2 pulled back slightly, more cautious now. See that cluster of cargo containers? Taehyun pointed at a group of huge storage boxes floating near the station. We are going through them. Through them? Leora's voice rose. Around them, you mean? Through, Taehyun confirmed. He aimed the ship at a narrow gap between 2 containers. The Blue Wing screamed through the opening with meters to spare on either side. Behind them, one Vexari fighter tried to follow. It was too wide. The fighter slammed into a container and both exploded. One enemy left. But the last fighter pilot was good. Very good. He stayed on their tail, matching every twist and turn. Energy bolts hammered their shields. The Blue Wing systems began to fail. Warning lights covered the control panel. Shields at 20%, Leora reported. Her voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. One more hit and we are done. Taehyun saw an asteroid field ahead. Small rocks left over from station construction. Not much cover, but it would have to do. He pushed the engines to maximum. The Blue Wing shot into the asteroid field. The remaining Vexari fighter followed, still firing. A bolt missed Taehyun's head by centimeters, burning through the canopy. Then Taehyun did something crazy. He cut the engines completely and fired the reverse thrusters. The Blue Wing stopped dead in space. The Vexari fighter, traveling at full speed, shot past them. Taehyun restarted the engines and spun the ship around. For one perfect moment, they were behind the enemy instead of in front. Do we have any weapons? He asked quickly. One mining laser, Leora said. It is not very powerful. Fire it now. Leora hit the controls. A bright beam lanced out and struck the Vexari fighter's engine. It was not a weapon meant for combat, but it was enough. The fighter's engine exploded and the ship tumbled away, dead in space. We did it, Leora breathed. We actually did it, not yet, Taehyun said. He pointed at the scanner. More fighters were launching from the station. Many more. Plot a jump course. Anywhere away from here. Leora's hands flew over the navigation console. Coordinates locked. Jump drive charging. 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like hours. The Blue Wing limped away from the station while the Vexari fighters closed in. Energy bolts flashed around them. Their shields were gone. The hull was breaching in multiple places. 20 seconds, Leora counted. The ship shook violently. Something exploded in the back compartment. 10 seconds, more hits. The canopy cracked. Air began leaking out. 5 seconds, the fighters were right behind them. Taehyun could see their weapons charging for the killing shot. Now, Leora shouted. 3 weeks of travel through empty space gave Taehyun and Leora time to know each other better. The Blue Wing was small and cramped, but it became their tiny world as they jumped from system to system, always moving toward Earth. Leora learned how to help with basic ship maintenance. Taehyun taught her which systems were most important and how to spot problems before they became disasters. She was a quick learner with steady hands and sharp eyes. Taehyun learned about Quillari culture, how they valued harmony and cooperation above all else, how their music could express emotions that words could not capture, how their society had been peaceful and prosperous before the Vexari came. They talked for hours during the long jumps between stars. They shared meals of bland ration bars and recycled water. They took turns sleeping while the other watched the controls. Slowly, they stopped being strangers and became friends. Tell me about your sister again, Leora asked one evening as they ate dinner in the cramped cockpit. G1, the one who grows plants on Mars. Taehyun smiled. He never got tired of talking about his sister. She is stubborn. Smart but stubborn. When we were children, I told her that girls could not be scientists. She punched me in the face and then built a robot that followed me around for a week making annoying sounds. Leora's 4 eyes brightened with amusement. I like her already. Everyone likes Jiwon, Taehyun said. She has this way of making you believe that impossible things are possible. That is why she is perfect for terraforming Mars. It will take 100 years to make that planet livable, but she believes it can be done. So she works every day making it happen. I hope I can meet her, Leora said quietly. You will, Taehyun promised. She will love you. She has always been curious about alien life. Having an actual alien friend will make her year. On the final day of their journey, the Blue Wing sensors picked up the edge of human space. Taehyun felt his heart beat faster. Home. He was almost home. But Leora looked nervous. What if your people do not accept me? What if they see me as an enemy? They will not, Taehyun assured her. You saved my life. You helped me escape. You are risking everything to bring us intelligence about the Vexari. They will see you as a hero. I hope you are right, Leora said. They emerged from their final jump near Mars orbit. Immediately, every alarm in the Blue Wing started screaming. The ship's computer detected weapons locks from multiple sources. This is Terran Defense Patrol to unidentified vessel. A harsh voice crackled over the communication system. You have entered restricted military space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in your immediate destruction. 6 human fighters surrounded them, weapons armed and ready. They were sleek and deadly, far more advanced than the Blue Wing. Taehyun quickly opened a channel. This is Lieutenant Commander Taehyun of the Terran Defense Fleet. Identification code 739 Delta Echo. I am requesting immediate clearance and escort to command headquarters. There was a long silence. Then a different voice came on, older and more cautious. Commander Taehyun, you were listed as killed in action at Kepler Station. How do we know this is really you? Taehyun rattled off his service number, his commanding officer's name, and details about his last mission that only the real Taehyun would know. I survived the crash. I was rescued by a neutral salvage ship, and I have escaped with vital intelligence about the Vexari fleet movements. And I have brought an ally who wishes to speak with our leaders. Another pause. Then, stand by for identity confirmation. Do not make any sudden movements. The fighters maintained their positions around the Blue Wing. Taehyun could see their weapon systems still active and ready. He did not blame them for being careful. The Vexari were known to use tricks and deceptions. Finally, after 10 tense minutes, the voice returned. Identity confirmed. Welcome home, Commander. You have clearance to proceed to Earth Orbital Station. Fighter escort will guide you in. Leora exhaled with relief. They believe us, for now, Taehyun said. But there will be many questions. Are you ready? No, Leora admitted. But I will try anyway. That is what you taught me. As they flew toward Earth, Leora pressed her face against the canopy window, staring at the blue planet below. Her 4 eyes were wide with wonder. It is beautiful, she whispered. So much water, so much blue and green and white. I have never seen anything like it. That is home, Taehyun said softly. That is what we are fighting for. The orbital station was massive, 10 times larger than the Vexari supply station they had fled from. Ships of all sizes moved around it like schools of fish. Defense platforms bristled with weapons. This was humanity's last line of defense if the Vexari attacked. The Blue Wing docked in a small bay. The moment they opened the hatch, armed soldiers surrounded them. Not hostile, but cautious, ready for anything. A woman in a military uniform pushed through the soldiers. She had Taehyun's eyes and his stubborn jaw. When she saw him, she froze. Taehyun? Ji-won's voice cracked. Is it really you? It is really me, he said. Ji-won ran forward and grabbed him in a fierce hug. She was crying and laughing at the same time. You idiot. You stupid brave idiot. We had a funeral for you. Mom cried for 3 days straight. I am sorry, Taehyun said, hugging her back. I did not mean to make you worry. Ji-won pulled back and punched him in the shoulder. Hard. That is for making me think you were dead. Then she hugged him again. And this is for coming back alive. When Ji-won finally released him, she noticed Leora standing awkwardly nearby. The small Quillari looked very out of place among all the tall humans in military hardware. Ji-won, Taehyun said, this is Leora. She saved my life. She is the reason I am standing here. Ji-won studied Leora for a moment. Then, without hesitation, she stepped forward and embraced the surprised alien. Thank you, Ji-won said fiercely. Thank you for bringing my brother home. Leora stood stiffly for a moment, clearly not used to such physical displays of affection. But then she slowly returned the hug. He saved me too, she said quietly, in a different way. But just as important, a stern voice interrupted the reunion. Commander Taehyun, report to Admiral Haewon immediately and bring your alien friend. The soldiers escorted them through the station's corridors. Crew members stopped and stared as they passed. Word was already spreading. The dead pilot had returned with an alien companion. Speculation ran wild. Admiral Haewon's office was functional and spare. Maps of human space covered the walls with red markers showing Vexari fleet positions. The Admiral herself was a hard-faced woman in her 50s with gray streaking through her black hair. She had the look of someone who had seen too much war. Commander, she said without preamble, your report, everything. Start from the moment your fighter was disabled. Taehyun told her everything. His crash, waking up on the salvage ship, meeting Leora, learning about the Vexari plans, the escape. He spoke clearly and concisely, leaving out nothing important. When he finished, Admiral Haewon turned her attention to Leora. And you? Why did you help him? Your people are subjects of the Vexari. You could be executed as a traitor. Leora met the Admiral's hard gaze without flinching, because I saw something in the humans that I had never seen before. The courage to fight impossible battles, the willingness to sacrifice for others. I realized that my people had forgotten how to be free. I want to help them remember. Pretty words, Haewon said. But can we trust you? How do we know this is not an elaborate Vexari trick? You do not know, Leora admitted. You have to make a choice. Trust me or do not. But I can tell you this. I have information that could help you. Fleet movements, weakness in their supply lines, communication codes, and I have contacts with Quillari resistance groups that still operate in secret. She pulled out the data chip Vorin had given her. This contains everything, coordinates, contact methods, proof that not all Quillari have given up. If you help us, we can help you. Together we might actually have a chance against the Vexari. Admiral Haewon took the chip and studied it. Then she looked at Taehyun. You trust her? With my life, Taehyun said without hesitation. She had a dozen chances to betray me. She chose not to. She gave up everything to come here. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Very well. We will examine this intelligence. If it checks out, we will discuss how to proceed. She looked at Leora. Welcome to Earth, Leora of Quelus. I hope you are prepared for what comes next. What does come next? Leora asked. Admiral Haywan gestured to the maps on her walls. The red markers showing enemy positions. War, she said simply. The Vexari are coming. Our scouts report a massive fleet assembling 6 months from here. When they arrive, they will try to do to Earth what they did to your world. Conquer or destroy. Can you stop them? Leora asked. Not alone, Haywan admitted. Our fleet is strong but not strong enough. We need allies. We need intelligence. We need miracles, she looked at both of them. And we need people like you two. People who refuse to give up. Taehyun straightened. What do you need us to do? Admiral Haywan smiled grimly. I need you to do the impossible again. I am putting together a strike force. A small fast group that will hit the Vexari staging areas before their main fleet can launch. Disrupt their plans. Buy us time. And maybe, just maybe, 2 months of intense preparation passed like a blur. Taehyun trained with the strike force, 50 of humanity's best pilots flying the fastest ships in the fleet. They drilled constantly, practicing hit-and-run tactics, learning to work as a single coordinated unit. Leora trained just as hard. She learned human combat systems, studied tactical analysis, and spent long hours reviewing intelligence data. But her most important work was reaching out to the Quillari resistance using the contacts Voron had given her. At first, the responses were cautious. Who was this stranger claiming to work with humans? But slowly, as word spread that a Quillari was actually living on Earth, helping plan a strike against the Vexari, the resistance became more willing to trust her. They shared intelligence, supply depot locations, patrol schedules, weaknesses in the Vexari communication network. Piece by piece, a picture emerged of how to hurt the enemy where it mattered most. Admiral Haywan gave them command of a new ship. The Defiant Dawn was a human cruiser, medium-sized but fast and well-armed. It would serve as the command vessel for the strike force. The night before they launched, Taehyun found Leora on the observation deck, staring out at Earth below. The planet rotated slowly, its blue oceans catching the light of the sun. Having second thoughts? He asked, standing beside her. Many thoughts, Leora said. Some of them second, some of them third or fourth. She glanced at him with her 4 eyes. Are you nervous? Terrified, Taehyun admitted. But that is normal. Fear keeps you sharp. It reminds you that what you are doing matters. The Resistance sent me a message today, Leora said quietly. They are ready. When we strike, they will rise up. Sabotage, protests, whatever they can do to cause chaos. She paused. People will die because of what we are about to do. My people, maybe yours too. People are already dying, Taehyun said gently. The Vexari kill anyone who resists them. They destroy worlds that do not submit. At least now we are giving your people a chance to fight back. A chance to be free. I know, Leora said. But knowing something is right does not make it easier. Taehyun put his hand on her shoulder. Tomorrow we make history. Together. Human and Quillari side by side, showing the galaxy that the Vexari can be beaten. Leora placed her small 3-fingered hand over his. Together, she agreed. The strike force launched at dawn. 50 ships, in tight formation, jumping toward the Vexari home system. The journey took 2 weeks, moving through empty systems and avoiding all contact with other vessels. Along the way, they encountered a few other alien species. Most were too afraid of Vexari reprisal to offer help. But a few, inspired by the audacity of humanity's plan, provided supplies or safe places to hide and rest. One small species called the Year even gave them updated intelligence on Vexari fleet positions. We cannot fight, the Year ambassador said. We are too few, but we can watch, and we can hope. Show them that tyrants are not invincible. Finally, they reached the edge of the Vexari home system. Ahead lay their staging area, a massive complex of shipyards and supply depots where the invasion fleet was gathering. Hundreds of Vexari warships waited there, preparing for their assault on Earth. There are so many. One of the human pilots whispered over the communication channel. Then we make every shot count, Taehyun replied firmly. He looked at Leora, who sat at the tactical station beside him. Ready? She nodded, her 4 eyes focused and determined. Broadcasting the signal now. Leora sent out a message on all Quillari frequencies. The words she had prepared with the resistance over the past 2 months. A call to action, a declaration that the time for submission had ended. My name is Leora of Quelus. Her voice rang out across the system. I speak to you from the bridge of a human warship. For 70 years we have lived under Vexari rule. We told ourselves we had no choice, that resistance was impossible, that survival was enough. Her voice grew stronger. But I have seen another way. I have met a species that refuses to surrender, that fights even when victory seems impossible, that believes freedom is worth any sacrifice. The humans are coming to strike at our oppressors, and I ask you, my people, will you strike with them? Will you finally stand up and fight? Silence followed. Then, across the system, things began to happen. On a Vexari supply depot, Quillari workers suddenly sabotaged the fuel lines. Explosions rippled across the facility. On a shipyard station, Quillari technicians locked down the docking clamps, trapping dozens of warships. On colony worlds, Quillari citizens took to the streets, overwhelming security forces. The Vexari system descended into chaos. Now, Taehyun ordered. All ships attack. The human strike force burst into the system at full speed. They split into smaller groups, each targeting critical infrastructure. Taehyun led his wings straight toward the command carriers, the massive vessels that coordinated the Vexari fleet. The enemy was caught completely off guard. They had never imagined anyone would dare attack their home system. Their defenses were focused outward, not inward. That mistake cost them dearly. Human ships darted through the massive Vexari vessels like angry insects. They were smaller and faster, impossible to track. Their weapons, precise and devastating, targeted weak points that Leora's intelligence had identified. Shield generators, engine cores, communication arrays, weapons platforms. One by one, the Vexari capital ships went dark. Taehyun flew the Defiant Dawn with absolute precision. Years of training and combat experience guided his hands. He knew exactly where to strike, exactly how to move, exactly when to dodge. Beside him, Leora coordinated with the Quillari resistance. She directed the strike force toward targets where the resistance had already weakened defenses. She warned them away from areas where the Vexari had concentrated their forces. They worked together perfectly. Human courage and Quillari knowledge. Strength and wisdom combined. The battle raged for hours. The void filled with fire and debris. Ships exploded. Lives ended. But the strike force pressed on, relentless and determined. A Vexari battleship moved to intercept the Defiant Dawn. It was 10 times their size with weapons that could vaporize them in a single shot. The logical thing would be to retreat. Taehyun accelerated toward it instead. What are you doing? Leora shouted. Something stupid, Taehyun replied with a fierce grin. Hold on. He flew straight at the battleship, weaving through its defensive fire. Energy bolts scorched past them, missing by meters. One hit would mean instant death. They closed to point-blank range. Taehyun fired everything they had at the battleship's exposed reactor core. Missiles, torpedoes, energy weapons. All of it concentrated on a single point. The battleship's reactor breached. The explosion was massive, a miniature star blooming in the darkness. Taehyun pulled the Defiant Dawn away just in time. The shockwave threw them violently, but they survived. You are insane, Leora said, breathing hard. I learned from the best, Taehyun replied. Humans are crazy, remember? You told me that. Despite the danger, despite the fear, Leora found herself laughing. Yes, crazy but effective. 3 of the main command carriers were destroyed. 5 more were crippled. Dozens of support vessels burned. The Vexari staging area was in ruins. Their carefully planned invasion fleet was shattered. But the cost was high. 15 human ships were destroyed. 15 crews lost. Friends and comrades that Taehyun had trained with, good people who would never go home. All ships, Taehyun ordered, his voice heavy. Begin withdrawal. We have done what we came to do. As the strike force regrouped and prepared to jump back to human space, Leora made one final broadcast. People of Quellis. We have proven the Vexari can be hurt. We have shown that resistance is possible. This is only the beginning. Rise up. Fight back. Reclaim your freedom. The humans stand with us. The galaxy is watching. Show them that the Quillari will be slaves no more. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the Vexari Empire on 100 Quillari colony worlds, the people rose in rebellion. Riots, strikes, sabotage, armed resistance. The Vexari had to divert forces to suppress the uprisings. Ships that were meant to attack Earth were instead sent to restore order in their own territory. The human strike force jumped to faster than light, leaving the chaos behind. They had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. In the command center of the Defiant Dawn, Taehyun and Leora sat in exhausted silence. Around them, the crew worked to repair damage and tend to wounded. The mood was somber but determined. We lost good people today, Taehyun said quietly. They died for something that mattered, Leora replied. They died so others could be free. Is that not what you told me? That some things are worth dying for? It is, Taehyun agreed. But it still hurts. Yes, Leora said softly. It does. They sat together in silence, two warriors from different worlds bound by shared sacrifice and common purpose. News of the strike spread across the galaxy at light speed. The impossible had happened. A human force had attacked the Vexari home system and won. The Quillari had risen in rebellion. The empire that seemed unstoppable was suddenly vulnerable. Other species began to watch with new interest. If the humans and Quillari could resist, maybe others could too. Maybe the galaxy did not have to accept tyranny as the natural order. Months after the strike, the galaxy had changed. The Quillari rebellion spread like wildfire across dozens of worlds. What started as scattered riots became organized resistance. What began as sabotage evolved into open warfare. Leora became the symbol of it all. The bridge walker, they called her. The Quillari who dared to stand with humans and show her people that freedom was possible. Her face appeared on broadcasts across the galaxy. Her words inspired millions, but symbols came with a price. Taehyun and Leora spent those months coordinating between human forces and Quillari rebels. The Defiant Dawn became a mobile command center, jumping from system to system, delivering supplies, providing tactical support, rescuing resistance fighters from impossible situations. They saved thousands. But they could not save everyone. One night, after a particularly brutal mission where they had arrived too late to prevent a Vexari massacre of a Quillari settlement, Taehyun found Leora alone in her quarters. She was staring at a hologram of the dead. Hundreds of faces. Men, women, children, all killed in retaliation for their rebellion. They died because of me, Leora said, her voice hollow. Because I told them to fight. Because I gave them hope. Taehyun sat beside her. They died because the Vexari are monsters. Not because of you. But if I had stayed quiet, if I had not broadcast that message, they would still be alive. Alive but enslaved is still alive, is it? Taehyun asked gently. I knew a man once. A Quillari named Vorin. He chose survival over freedom. He lived for 70 years with that choice. And he told me he regretted it every single day. He gave you those resistance contacts because he wanted someone to finish what he could not start. Taehyun gestured to the hologram. These people made a choice. They chose to fight. They chose freedom even knowing the cost. That is not your burden to carry. That is their gift to future generations. Leora was silent for a long time. Then she said quietly, I miss my homeworld. I miss the crystal gardens and the singing festivals. I miss the peace we had before the Vexari came. Sometimes I wonder if we can ever have that again. You will, Taehyun promised. Maybe not exactly the same. War changes people, but you will build something new. Something better. A Quellis that is free. News reached them that Jiwon's research colony on Mars had been attacked. A Vexari strike force bypassed the outer defenses and hit the terraforming facilities. Thousands died. Jiwon survived but was badly injured. Taehyun wanted to rush back to Earth immediately. but Admiral Haywan ordered him to stay where he was. "Your sister is alive and recovering," the Admiral said over the communication link. "She would want you to finish the mission. The Vexari attacked Mars to draw you away, to make you abandon the Quillari. Do not let them win." It was the hardest order Taehyun had ever followed. But he stayed. He continued the fight. Leora noticed his pain. She sat with him during the long nights when he could not sleep. She did not say much. Sometimes there were no words that could help. But her presence was enough. Just knowing he was not alone made the burden lighter. "Your sister is strong," Leora said one evening. "Like you. She will survive this." "I know," Taehyun said. "But I should be there. I should be protecting her." "You are protecting her," Leora replied. "By stopping the Vexari here, you keep them away from Earth. Every day we delay them is another day your people have to prepare. Another day Jiwon has to heal and continue her work." She took his hand. "We protect the people we love by fighting for a better future. That is what you taught me." Other species began to take notice. The Year, who had given them intelligence, started their own quiet resistance. The Tolvan, a merchant species, began refusing to trade with Vexari worlds. The Brax, a warrior culture, sent a secret delegation to discuss a possible alliance. The galaxy was waking up. After centuries of accepting Vexari dominance, different species were finally asking the question Leora had asked months ago. Why should the strong always rule the weak? But the Vexari were not defeated. Far from it. They still had massive military power. They still controlled hundreds of worlds, and they were gathering their forces for one final devastating strike. Intelligence reports showed a fleet assembling near the border of human space, not the scattered forces from the staging area that had been destroyed, but their reserve fleets, their home guard, everything they had left, 3,000 warships, an armada that could destroy entire solar systems, and they were heading straight for Earth. Admiral Haywan called an emergency meeting. Taehyun and Leora attended via hologram from the Defiant Dawn. Military leaders from across human space filled the conference room. Everyone looked grim. "The Vexari will reach Earth in 6 weeks, Admiral Haywan said. "We can field 300 ships. Even with the Quillari rebels tying down some of their forces, the numbers are overwhelming. We need a miracle. We need allies," Taehyun said. "The other species, the ones who are watching, we need to convince them to join us." "They are afraid," another admiral argued. "The Vexari have ruled through fear for centuries. Words will not change that." "Then we show them," Leora said. Everyone turned to look at her hologram. "We show them that the Vexari can be beaten, not in a raid or a strike, in a real battle. Ship to ship, fleet to fleet." "How?" Admiral Haywan asked. "We do not have the numbers. We use what we have," Leora replied. "The Quillari resistance, the intelligence networks, the supply line disruptions. We make the Vexari weak before they ever reach Earth. And we show the galaxy that humans do not fight alone anymore, that the age of isolated species is over, that together we are stronger than any tyrant." Admiral Haywan studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Coordinate with your resistance contacts. Find every weakness in that fleet, every vulnerability. We will use it all." She looked around the room at the assembled officers. "We have 6 weeks to prepare for the fight of our lives. Humanity has faced extinction before and survived. We will do it again, not because we are the strongest, but because we refuse to give up." The meeting ended. Plans were made. Ships were repositioned. Defenses were strengthened. Taehyun and Leora worked non-stop, coordinating resistance efforts across dozens of systems. Quillari rebels hit Vexari supply convoys. They sabotaged fuel depots. They fed false information into enemy communication networks. Every small victory weakened the approaching fleet. Not enough to stop them, but enough to give humanity a fighting chance. 1 week before the Vexari arrived, something unexpected happened. A Year diplomatic vessel entered human space carrying a message. "We will fight with you," the Year ambassador said. "We are small. We are weak. But we will stand beside you." Then the Tolvan arrived. "Our merchant ships are not warships," their speaker said. "But we can transport supplies. We can carry wounded. We can help." The Brax came next, their warrior fleet gleaming with weapons. "We have watched you fight," their commander declared. "We have seen your courage. The Brax respect strength, and you have shown more strength than any species we have ever met. We will stand with you." More came. Species that had been neutral, species that had been afraid, species that had been waiting for someone to stand up first. By the time the Vexari fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system, they faced not 300 human ships but 800 ships from a dozen different species, still outnumbered, still outgunned, but no longer alone. Admiral Haywan positioned the fleet near Jupiter's orbit. They would use the gas giant's gravity and the asteroid fields to even the odds. They would fight with everything they had. On the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, Taehyun and Leora prepared for battle one last time. They had fought side by side for months. They had saved each other's lives more times than either could count. They had become more than friends. They had become partners in a way that transcended species or culture. "If we die today," Leora said quietly, "I want you to know something. Meeting you changed my life. You showed me what it means to be brave, what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. Thank you for that." "If we die today," Taehyun replied, "we die as free people fighting for a free galaxy. That is more than most can say. And I am honored to die beside you." Leora smiled with all four eyes shining. "Then let us try not to die. Let us try to win instead." "That sounds like a better plan," Taehyun agreed. The Vexari fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. 3,000 ships filled the void like a swarm of locusts, their weapons charged, their shields activated. They had come to end humanity once and for all. Admiral Haywan opened a channel to the entire fleet. "Human, Quillari, Yer, Tolvan, Brax, and all the others. Today we make history," she said. "Today we prove that the age of tyranny is over. Today we fight not for our individual species, but for the freedom of the entire galaxy. Stand strong. Stand together. And show these tyrants what happens when free people unite." The combined fleet surged forward to meet the enemy. The final battle had begun. The battle for Earth raged across 3 days and 3 nights. It was the largest space battle in recorded history. Thousands of ships locked in desperate combat across millions of kilometers. The first day was chaos. The Vexari fleet crashed into the defensive lines like a tidal wave. Ships exploded. Debris filled the void. The human and allied forces fell back toward Jupiter, using the planet's massive gravity well to disrupt enemy formations. Taehyun led the strike wings, flying the Defiant Dawn through impossible situations. He was everywhere at once, saving ships that were about to be destroyed, targeting enemy vessels at critical moments. His reputation had spread through the fleet. Where the Defiant Dawn appeared, hope followed. Leora coordinated the Quillari resistance ships. They were not military vessels. Most were converted cargo haulers or mining ships with weapons bolted on. But they fought with fierce determination. They had spent 70 years under Vexari rule. Now they had a chance to break those chains forever. By the end of the first day, 200 allied ships were destroyed. But the Vexari had lost 500. The combined fleet's tactics, their coordination, their willingness to sacrifice for each other, it all made a difference. The second day saw the battle move into the asteroid fields near Jupiter. The smaller allied ships used the rocks for cover, ambushing larger Vexari vessels. The Brax warriors proved their worth, their aggressive tactics perfectly suited for close-quarters combat. A Vexari dreadnought, one of their largest ships, moved to bombard Earth's moon. If it succeeded, the debris would rain down on the planet below. Millions would die. Taehyun saw the threat. "All ships with me," he ordered. We stopped that dreadnought. 20 ships followed him in a desperate charge. They flew straight at the massive vessel, weaving through its defensive fire. Half were destroyed before they reached weapons range, but the others pressed on. Taehyun targeted the dreadnought's main weapon. The rest hit its engines and shield generators. They poured everything they had into the giant ship. The Defiant Dawn took a direct hit. Alarms screamed. Fire spread through the aft section. Leora was thrown from her station, blood leaking from a cut above one of her eyes. "We are not done yet," Taehyun shouted. He redirected all power to weapons and fired one last time. The dreadnought's main weapon exploded. The detonation ripped through the entire ship. The massive vessel broke apart and died. But it was not just Taehyun's heroics that turned the tide. Across the battlefield, similar acts of courage played out. A Yer captain rammed his tiny ship into a Vexari cruiser's bridge, killing himself but saving a human carrier. A Tolvan medical ship flew into a kill zone to rescue survivors from a destroyed station. A group of Quillari fighters sacrificed themselves to protect a damaged Brax battleship. Every species, Every culture, every ship in the combined fleet gave everything they had. On the third day, as the battle reached its climax, something broke in the Vexari ranks. Their empress, commanding from her massive flagship, demanded that her forces press the attack, but her subordinates, seeing the impossible courage of the Allied forces, began to question. Why were they dying for an empress who ruled through fear? Why were they fighting species that stood together while their own empire relied on slaves and conquered subjects? Cracks appeared in the Vexari command structure. Ships began withdrawing without orders. Some even broke away completely and fled the system. The combined fleet, sensing the change, pushed forward with renewed energy. They were exhausted. They were battered. Half their ships were damaged or destroyed. But they refused to stop. Admiral Haywan broadcast a message to the Vexari fleet. You have lost, not because we are stronger, but because we fight for something you cannot understand. We fight for freedom, for our families, for a galaxy where might does not make right. Withdraw now and we will let you go. Continue fighting and we will destroy you all. For a long moment nothing happened. Then one by one Vexari ships began to jump to faster than light travel. They retreated. They abandoned the battle. They left their empress behind. The empress's flagship, surrounded and alone, tried to escape. But Quillari resistance ships, led by fighters bearing Leora's symbol, blocked its path. They had waited 70 years for this moment. This is for Quellis, Leora's voice rang out across all channels. This is for every world you conquered, every species you enslaved. Your empire ends today. The resistance ships fired. The Empress's flagship, damaged and without support, could not withstand the assault. It exploded in a brilliant flash, taking the symbol of Vexari tyranny with it. Silence fell across the battlefield. The Vexari fleet was gone. The Allied forces had won. For a moment, no one could believe it. Then the communication channels exploded with cheers. Ships fired their thrusters in celebration. Crews embraced. People cried and laughed and simply breathed in relief. They had done the impossible. They had defeated the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. The defiant Dawn limped back toward Earth, its hull scarred and smoking but still flying. On the bridge, Taehyun and Leora sat in exhausted silence. Around them, the crew worked to keep critical systems running. Everyone was injured. Everyone was past their limits. But they were alive. We did it, Leora finally said. We actually did it. Yes, Taehyun replied. He looked at his small alien friend. Her violet skin was streaked with blood and soot. Her robes were torn, but her 4 eyes shone with joy. You did it. You freed your people. We did it, Leora corrected. Human and Quillari together. Just like we planned. In the days following the battle, the galaxy began to change. The Vexari Empire, without its empress and with its fleet shattered, collapsed. Subject species everywhere rose up and claimed their freedom. The era of conquest and domination was over. A new galactic coalition formed. Different species working together, sharing resources and knowledge, defending each other, building a future based on cooperation instead of fear. Taehyun received word that Jiwon had recovered from her injuries. She was already back on Mars, continuing her work to terraform the planet. Tell your alien friend thank you, Jiwon's message said. She helped save the world I'm trying to build. Leora became a leader of the new Quillari government. Her people, free for the first time in 70 years, needed guidance. They needed someone who understood both the old ways and the new future. But she never forgot the human who had taught her what courage meant. Months after the battle, Taehyun was assigned as humanity's first ambassador to the Galactic Coalition. It was a role that required someone who understood multiple species, someone who had proven they could work with others, someone who believed in unity over division. His first official act was to request Leora as his co-ambassador. I cannot do this alone, he told the human government. I need someone who sees the galaxy the way I do, someone who believes in what we fought for. The request was approved. On the observation deck of the new coalition headquarters, a massive station built by a dozen species working together, Taehyun and Leora watched the construction crews at work. Ships from every member species flew past carrying supplies and materials. Do you remember when we first met? Leora asked. When I found you dying in that medical bay. I remember thinking I would never see another sunrise, Taehyun said. That my life was over. Instead, it was beginning, Leora said. For both of us. You gave me courage. I gave you hope. Together we changed everything. What do we do now? Taehyun asked. We fought for peace. But building peace is harder than winning wars, Leora smiled. We continue. We work every day to make this coalition stronger. We teach others what we learned. That different species can work together. That diversity makes us stronger. That the future belongs to those who choose unity over division. That sounds exhausting, Taehyun said. It does, Leora agreed. But we will not do it alone. We have allies now. Friends. An entire galaxy of species who believe in the same dream. She looked at him with all four eyes warm and bright. Besides, have you forgotten? I am devoted to this mission. I have been since the day I saved a dying human pilot and he taught me what it means to be free. I will not stop now, Taehyun laughed. Then neither will I. We are partners, remember? Where you go, I go. Together, Leora said. Together, Taehyun agreed. They stood side by side, watching the new future being built before their eyes. Human and Quillari, two people from different worlds who had found each other in the darkness of war and had lit a fire that spread across the galaxy. Their story became legend. The tale of the human who refused to surrender and the alien who learned that courage was a choice. The story of how they stood together against tyranny and won not through strength alone, but through the power of unity and hope. And whenever young people of any species felt afraid or powerless, they would hear this story and remember, one person can make a difference. Two people working together can change a world, and a galaxy united can achieve the impossible. The battle was over. The human had opened his eyes and found a devoted companion by his bedside. And together, they had transformed that devotion into a force that freed billions and built a better future for all. This was their legacy. This was their gift to the galaxy, and it would endure forever.